So what we're doing today, we're over at Andrew Gentle's over in the Witterings. We want to do a really interesting trial. And what we're doing is we're taking a Grange machine, it's a 4 metre. And what we're doing is looking at the Grange point. This is the sort of like traditional Grange point. So you've got a medium, sort of what I'm going to call now a medium length nose. The rake angle of the shin, once it's on, is pretty much straight up with the soil as it comes through. And we've got a slight angle on the wings. Now what we've done, and we've got 12 variations on a theme here, we're going to put them all on. So we've got 4 points on each one. We're going to put half the machine on one type of point, half the machine on the other type of point. And there's 3 variations in lots of different ways, which means we're going to end up with 12 different trials. So what we've got is, first of all, the rake angle as it goes through the soil. This is the traditional one. So we're going to do some with the traditional angle or rake angle as it goes through. We've then got others which are going to come forward. It's actually going to come slightly forward as it goes through the soil. And then we're going to have others which are actually going to be slightly swept back as it goes through the soil. So we've got the 3 different rake angles. We've got straight up as normal, and then we've got slightly forward, slightly back. The next thing we're going to be doing is we're looking at the distance. What difference does this point, the nose out front, what difference does that make? So we've got a very short one which is much reduced from the standard Grange point, and then what we've also got a much longer nose that goes out front. This would be the traditional one, then we've got this one which is extended out, and then we've got this stubbier nose. The final part of the trial is the wings. So we're going to be doing some with a flat wing, and we're going to be doing some with an angled wing. So we're here now on the 19th of August 2025, and it feels like it hasn't rained for months and months. So if we just swing around and have a look at this soil, this is what we'd call a real brick clay. So it's high clay content. It is got some silt in there as well. There's the odd stone, but generally it's quite stone free. But what we're finding is we're not going to be able to go terribly fast. One thing that we wanted to do on the trial is maybe take it to about 8k, and then realistically we know that in certain seasons farmers will need to crack on. They know that the storm clouds are gathering and they want to get ground moved prior to seeding. So for that basis, what we're wanting to also do as part of the trial, which we'll come back to later, is change of speeds, because I think that is something that's really with the farmer as to how fast they want to go or they need to go in order to get things done. So we want to do some trials at sort of 8k, and then other trials at maybe 10, maybe even a little bit faster, to see with these different styles of point, is one style better in at 8k, whereas if we know that we're going to go that little bit faster because operations mean that we've got to, well, then it may be that a different style point is better for you at those speeds. So that's something else we're going to do. I think today we're not going to be able to do that, because if we try and take this any faster, they wouldn't normally anyway, but if we try and take this any faster, it's going to put too much pressure on the frame. So we're not going to do that today. And what we'll be doing is we will have the soil compaction tester. We're going to go through sort of soil compact all the way down, see if we've got a nice even with the different styles. Is it nice and even in between the points? Are we looking at more disturbance as it comes up? Are we actually seeing more disturbance with these other points? And are we getting a different type of shatter? With it being so hard, I think it's going to tell us that almost regardless of the style of point, you're going to get a very similar finish. If we come back in September and the ground is a bit more moist, a bit more moisture in the soil, I think we're actually going to see some different conditions, and I think these different styles will actually then show some different results. But let's crack on, get these points on, and we'll be here for most of the day. First problem we've encountered is our cast points. You can see, keep your eye on that, on our fabricated points that we've got for this trial. You can see this bit comes up further. Just have to come back to the yard. So our original points fit nicely on around this hard facing, so they fit on perfectly here. Now our fabricated points, in order to get this weld, we're not going to make a tooling for every one. We've had to get this weld, we've had to take this up higher. And what we've got there is this is now, so we can't get that on, so we've had to come back to the yard. We're going to have to weld this bit out. So faux pas number one. Just really interested in a topic that we're going to explore a little bit further today, and that is the construction and design of the low disturbance points. What we're looking at is a Grange fitment. We're looking at the Grange point that's gone up here as is off the shelf, and then what we've got is 12 different designs that we're going to be looking at. And we're looking at the nose length from where it then hits the rake angle of the shin, and the distance also from the wings. We're then looking at the pitch of the wings. We're looking at the pitch of the rake angle. So we've got two different pitches on the wings. We've got different lengths going out from the shin to the front of the point, and then we've got three different rake angles that we're going to be looking at. And what we're doing is we've already done the trials. We're just going to go and test them in a moment. So we've been working with Andrew Gentle, very kindly helping us here. So what we've done is we've gone up the field at 8k, and then we've turned around and we've come back at 12, because we know that 8k may be what people want to do, but then in certain seasons when time's against us, we actually probably put a little bit more throttle on and we're going a little bit faster. So is there going to be a difference in the different point designs at 8k? Is there going to be a difference in the point design at 12k? And we don't know what we're going to find, but we're going to have a dig down. We've got some soil compaction testers. We're going to look at the structure of the soil, and we're going to see the surface as well, what sort of clods are brought up. So we may find that there's some very real differences. We may find that one point is much better at 12k and a different point is better at 8k, both with regards to disturbance and what it's actually doing underneath ground. So really interested to see what we're going to find in the next few moments. So just to explain what we've done today, and we did back in the height of the summer, is with the soil compaction tester, we've got the small nib here, and when we've got the thicker one here. We've used the thicker one on both, and what we've done is we've taken a reading actually in the line of the point, and then they're 500 mil apart, and then in between each one we've taken another reading. So we've gone in the line of the leg and the point, 250 mil across right in the middle, then in the point again. So we've done that in between everything all the way up. In the summer we were pushing this right the way around to red, because that was the height of summer, really hard conditions then. We've had quite a lot of rain, and you can really feel how it's softened up. So what we're doing now is we're going to the green. So we'll just take a point, we'll push down to the green. When it gets there, we then take that measurement. So we'll take that out and we'll take that measurement in between, and then we'll do that in between everyone. So we've done that right the way up the line. We've got a 4-meter machine, so for each style of point we've actually got 4 of them. So half the machine is on one style of point, the other half is on another, and then we've done that 12 different changes. We've gone through and we've now tested all 12 points. So what we're doing here is just trying to, with a trusty old pointing trowel, dig down and just feel where it's loose and where it's less loose. Now this is still soft, so when we went through with the compaction tester, we were getting pretty level. I mean, there are some differences, but where the legs, the tines had been, and in between, we went through all of these different stages, and actually when you push down with the compaction tester, you don't see a massive amount of difference. When you get your trowel and you actually start feeling the profile and just loosely pulling back what is actually loose, you can see that there is a very definite profile. Some of these outer bits are quite hard because they're broken, they're not solid, but they're not loose. They're not just coming back with this soft pull of the trowel. You can see that there is a definite profile. Well, I'll take some measurements later, but it's not an exact science, this. You can see quite clearly where the legs have been and then in between, but this is still soft. This is not compacted, and it's broken, but it's not moved like the tine has moved it. So we're going to do right the way through here, so this will get some work, and then we'll see if there's any really definable differences. So we've had a really interesting day today. I think we've learned something. We've still got lots left to learn, but what we've done is we've dug 26 pits, looking at 12 different style of points. We've dug these pits through, so we're then looking at the profile of what the points have done as they've gone through the ground, both at 8 and then coming back at 12. This is actually the original Grange profile point. You can see where the tine has gone through. You can see it coming through here, and then you can see this breaking of the soil. And then you can see here, this isn't actually broken at all. And then as you get through to the next tine, you can see the profile changed, so you can see where the tine has actually gone through. So I'm going to come back and have a look at those tomorrow, actually have a measure. It's very hard to discern what's going on here, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to take some measurements across and just see what's been broken up and what hasn't. Now interestingly, what we found was when you take a soil compaction test and you did it in the line of the tine and then in between and then in the line of the tine again in between, we've done that right the way through, so in between every single working point, actually it does very little difference. So even when you're down the channel of the leg and the point, once you're getting to the depth that has gone, about 27 centimetres, it's then going from green into yellow with the wider tip on there. Now when you then come in between, you're still getting a very similar reading. So I thought all this was going to be completely broken. Now what's clear is that it's loosened, and you've still got that same compaction test, pretty much that same sort of reading, but when you actually look at the profile, you can see that there is areas in between that hasn't been seemingly disturbed, but it looks like it's been loosened somewhat. So we're going to come back tomorrow, we're going to look all the way through here, we're going to take the profiles of every single different style of point at those two different speeds, and then we'll put them all together in the computer and we'll see what it actually tells us. Is there any difference between 12 and 8K, and is there any difference between these 12 different types of point? So we'll report back. Thank you. So I just wanted to give a bit of an overview on the trials that we did on the Grange parts just below Chichester. Now we got some really interesting results there, and we trialled a number of different points and at 3 in the end different speeds. In the initial trials it was so hard that we couldn't really go for more than 7K because it would have ripped the machine in half. It was like concrete. Then later on in the year it had softened up quite a lot, and then we went at 8K and we went at 12K. Now with all these different point shapes, and we looked at the wing and the angle of the wing, we looked at the depth of the nose, and we also looked at the rake angle in the shin, and we were trying to see which combination gave us the best results. The starting point was the original that we offer in the Maxipart range. The results were very interesting. We do have a conclusive result, and I will get to that. But with regards to the different length of nose and the angle of the wing and the rake angle, we did find that the shorter nose with a straight wing angle and where the rake angle was elevated forward gave a marginally less disturbance to the soil. However, the biggest factor by a country mile that made all the difference in the world was speed. So when you went fast, the one with a shorter nose and the forward angle of the shin and the straighter wing gave less disturbance compared to the one at the other side, which is a longer nose, a lifted wing, so the wing was actually angled down and the shin was pulled back. There was a difference when you went at speed. When you slow it down, when you go 8K or when you go 7K, the results are massively outweighing the design, hugely outweighing the design. We could look at both things, and we could shorten that nose and we could put the rake angle forward. The shorter nose, the fear of that is penetration. So we feel that we need to have that penetration. So we feel we need that longer nose. And then you're looking at the disturbance, and we're looking at really above the ground here. When it's below the ground, you do need it to do a job. When you look at the sort of bubble that the point makes, you will see that the one that probably has less disturbance on top of the ground is also doing the least disturbance below the ground. So is one better than the other? I think it depends on what you want it to do. What job do you want it to do? If you've got a black grass problem and you want absolute minimal disturbance, the first thing I'd say is slow down. That's your biggest determining factor. A shortened nose and sort of neutral wing does do something for you on that, on the disturbance above the ground, but below the ground it does less. So if you're looking at those 500mm spacings and you want to move the ground in between those, to help with establishment, to move and aerate that ground, the more disturbance above, the more disturbance below. The less disturbance above, the less disturbance below. So my feeling is, very genuinely, not because I just don't want to design another point, My feeling is that the halfway house where you have the wing with an angle on it, that you have a decent amount of nose to help with that penetration, and you've got, when it's in the ground, basically a neutral angle, so it's going sort of like level, sort of like horizontally through the ground. My overall feeling is this is very much the best point as an overall. If you want less disturbance, slow down.